child's play. Not really. Going solo, leaving a corporate job, going out on your own is never child's play. But I'm going to share with you today an interesting interview with a gentleman who has left the corporate world. He's now an illustrator in the children's book industry, some fascinating illustrations, but more importantly, Bruce Arendt, who's my guest here today, is going to tell us what he went through internally and the steps that enabled him to make a relatively successful transition out of the corporate world into working as a freelancer. Welcome to NxBizSuccess. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker, and Bruce Arendt, welcome to NxBizSuccess.
Thank you, Lynn. My pleasure.
And congratulations on your, at least your short-term success so far.
Thank you.
You've done a super-duper job. Now, tell us very briefly, you are a children's book illustrator, but you were a corporate editor in the publishing and home design business,
yes,
right?
for almost the last 20 years, I've been an editor of one form or the other in the home design publishing industry.
Well, that's a long ways away from whimsical illustrations for children's books.
Not really. When you sit in corporate meetings and doodle, it's kind of, that ties it all together.
Okay, all right.
It makes it go by fast.
And as I understand, you've been doodling for a long time.
I have been. I really, that was kind of my main distraction from teachers and preachers all growing up. All through school, I would sit in class, and actually it helped me concentrate better if I could be drawing something.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing out there about left brain and right brain, and if you preoccupy one side, then you can focus on the other.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, listen, actually, your illustration hobby goes way back to your early years, right?
Yes, it does.
And so many entrepreneurs are sitting around, particularly in these turbulent times, wondering, what would I do next if I had to go out on my own as an individual entrepreneur? How did you draw upon and muster the courage to draw upon some hobby you had as a third grader, to go out and make a living?
Well, I didn't have the courage for most of my, working career life.
Well, thank you for admitting that. I think that's such a realistic admission.
Well, it's the kind of thing you think, well, could this really be a real thing, or is it just the side thing? I had done freelance work ever since college, but it was always on the side. The responsibilities I had, obligations I had, really I felt required that I have the corporate job, which I did.
Right.
But this was always something that was like an itch that I wanted to scratch, that I had to scratch at some level. Well, as of about four and a half months ago, I lost my real job, my day job in the publishing industry.
Yeah.
And it was really almost more of an obvious, it wasn't a hard decision in the sense that, should I do this or shouldn't? It was sort of the obvious decision.
Well, you knew it was there. You knew you had skill. You knew you had ability, right? But you had to, I guess, walk out on that diving board, huh?
Yeah, it's like, and I feel like I'm still, taking steps toward the end of that diving board. I've been preparing myself actually for my launch, because you can't just become a children's book illustrator. There's a process.
Absolutely a process. And in fact, before we go any further, let me just show the camera and our audience out there, many entrepreneurs, that in fact you do have the ability here. This is quite an incredible and elaborate pencil illustration. It's a beautiful, charming, whimsical illustration of a young boy climbing up a ladder into the clouds. And Bruce, I have to tell you, many entrepreneurs, I think this is symbolic of what many entrepreneurs really want to do. They want to leave the ground. They want to go up to a higher reality or some kind of a higher purpose. Yeah. And I think that's what this illustration kind of conveys.
I hadn't thought of it in that context, but that is exactly right.
Well, right here on NxBizSuccess, we reveal things like that all the time. Well, listen, what was the defining moment? You say you were called and said, this your job's going to be discontinued. Was there a second there where you said, well, I'm going to go look for another replacement job, or did you say, well, this is it, I'm going to go right ahead and start off with my illustration career?
There was more than a second. I probably spent a few days retweaking my resume. I had my eyes open because I felt that this could happen at any time, given the climate of the publishing industry.
Sure.
But I went ahead and my first reflex was to try to fix it, go out and try to replace the job.
Replace the previous experience.
With another corporate job.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all fine and good, nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, there was this little voice in the back of my head sort of yapping at me saying, why don't you go ahead and give this a shot? I mean, yes, you can go look for another corporate job, but why not this is your chance?
Well, now this is obvious. Now we're going to get into the logistics of this transition, okay? Because obviously money is always an issue, financial stability, you have family and things that you have to be responsible to. Did you go quick, check your checkbook or get the credit cards, or did you say, okay, I'm going to take a run at this, but when I'm out of this amount of money, then it's done and I'll go back to the old deal? Or how did you really, from a material point of view, summon the courage?
Well, really, what I did, I had four things I basically want.
Okay, well, share these 4 points. These enabled you to go off and jump off the diving board.
I had I had a collaborator. I had somebody who I could work with on this, and that was actually the person who was representing me as my agent.
Okay.
There's somebody that knew me, knew my work. I had actually worked for this person. She had been the CEO of the company I'd worked with a couple of years ago.
And she said, "Go ahead, I'll help you." And
she's a brilliant business mind, and she said, I was talking with her, and she said, I've got the connections in the publishing industry. I've got the know-it-all in terms of the literary agent business.
Sure.
She says, you've got the art talent. She said, let's team together, let's work together. I could represent you.
So obviously you represented value to her, a potential extra revenue stream.
At the same time, she had the strengths that I didn't have in terms of, all of the ins and outs of that business.
Sure.
And I didn't have that,
Okay.
So
that's step number one.
Right.
What else?
The other thing was, and just like any good marketing plan, you've got to have some kind of promotional material. So I went out and I thought, well, what don't I have? I don't have a business card even for doing this. So I developed a business card.
Okay.
Then I produced I didn't produce it, I worked with a graphic artist to produce a promotional piece for myself.
No, wait, you're already a graphic artist. You worked with another graphic artist?
Well, I worked with a graphic artist who knows how to put together on a computer. Everything I do is all handwork.
You're old school.
I'm old school.
You're analog and you're old school. Okay,
exactly.
well that's cool. So obviously you had somebody kind of supporting you, empowering you, saying, I'll work with you and represent you.
Right.
I'll connect you with customers. Then you often said, I better have a representation of who I am.
Right. Started developing a website also, because you've got to have an online portfolio. That's all been in the works.
Got to do that. What else?
Also planning to attend the major shows like the stationery show, the book show in New York. You've got to be where the people are, where the connections are.
Very important.
So that was part of it.
And a lot of people skip over that.
Well, yeah, you have to make...
They try to save money and cut corners, and they don't go to the conventions and the conferences and the seminars, and they somehow drift away from the thrust of the industry.
Well, and the key is to make the connections, having this person representing me, setting up these meetings for me, this type of thing, so that we can actually get to the right places.
Yeah. You've touched on such a key point. I wonder how many entrepreneurial ventures fail because they don't have the connections in advance that are leverageable, and people who really do care about them. It's not just, I know a guy in a Rolodex, or I can make a phone call. It's people that really do, in fact, believe in you.
That's the whole thing. You've got to believe in yourself and realize that you are capable of doing this. But at the same time, that only goes as far as yourself. If you don't have those outside connections with people that can take you, that can be a conduit to where you want to go, that's what you really got to have. The other fourth thing is, it just so happens that the children's book industry is still very strong. Publishing in general is having a tough time right now.
I was going to say, that's kind of a recessionary-prone industry,
but you found a niche. People are still reading to their kids. They're still looking at picture books, and I think they always will. And so that, thankfully, it was like a hand-in-glove deal with this ability.
And that's amazing. So many people make these generalizations about an industry or a market segment or whatever, and it's not doing well, and I don't think we'll be able to succeed there. But in many of those, not always, but many times, there is a growth pocket or a segment or a certain scenario that you could fit yourself in and realize some upside.
Yeah, you've got to look for those pockets, like you say, where there is growth and where there's potential, because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Bruce Arendt, I appreciate your sharing this with us. You're one of the first entrepreneurs we've talked to that's only just partially down the road. But I know because of the 4 points in particular that you've shared with us, you've got a great success destiny in front of you. I love the fact that you're living your bliss, you're climbing up that ladder into the sky. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. This is NxBizSuccess. You can visualize success, find the growth niche that will support your deepest and your highest aspirations. Thanks for joining us. Keep on going, keep on growing.